Hi everyone, this is Soliday, and this is week 4, and we are going to be focusing on the Smithsonian Learning Lab. So I'm super excited to be giving you guys a very quick presentation on that. So for my fieldwork experience, I used the Smithsonian Learning Lab, the website, and I decided to focus on the Apollo program and the technology and how it's being used to explore the moon. And so I particularly chose this topic because I'm the type of person who is very interested in aerospace and the technology since a couple months ago because I found it very, I found it very challenging, but it's also very interesting to kind of explore what is outside our universe. And I wanted to learn more about historical space in general and how it can be studied throughout the digital museum resources, which is what we are going to be diving into. Before we dive into anything else, I want to talk about what is the Smithsonian Learning Lab and what I have learned from this particular website and what I have discovered so far. And so basically, Smithsonian Learning Lab is an online platform that allows people like students like me, to kind of explore the digital resources from the Smithsonian. So instead of like only reading the text, we are able to explore the museum resources by images, videos and objects and artifacts and documents and many other resources that you can find on that particular website itself. And so the users can also create their own collections, which is very important and very um, I think it's very unique that users are able to, they're given the access to actually create their own collections, because sometimes when you only look through a bunch of stuff, it's very challenging to remember stuff. So I think in order to remember and in order to learn something for a long period of time, in order to keep that in your memory for a long period of time, I think being able to create a collections of what you have learned is super important. And so, yeah, and so I thought this made the platform very different from a regular search engine because its the resources are being organized for educational explorations in general explore. And so, what I explore about the Apollo program using the Smithsonian Learning Lab, I explored resources related to human space explorations and moon missions and spacecraft technology, astronauts, engineering, and innovations. Even though I have explored a bunch of these resources, um, not all of them have a deep knowledge on what I was actually expecting, but it's okay because because the website is not supposed to have everything, because sometimes the website can be used for kids. And so some of the resources that they have on that particular website, it can be like an introductions for kids, like young kids. So I think that's great. And my main question was, how technology made it possible for humans to travel and explore the moon. And I was especially very interested in this because Apollo missions required a lot of complicated systems and engineerings and a lot of plannings and problem solving mathematically with a lot of physics as well. Exploring the topic through the museum resources allowed me to, you see technology as a real historical objects rather than just a bunch of informations in a textbook. So what I have learned, I would say one thing I learned from exploring the Smithsonian resources is that space explorations uh, require much more than simply just building rockets. Yes, in order to build a rocket, you need a very hard skills in computer science, mathematics and physics, but I think heavily mostly on physics and mathematics. But the Apollo missions depend on many different technologies working together as a whole, including spacecraft, communication systems, navigations, spacesuits. All of these things as a combinations, they all come together as a support systems. And so this helped me understand that space exploration is such a large systems, and it involves so many different principles and engineerings and problem solving. And yeah, And yes, the content was delivered through a bunch of, digital media. Instead of like only reading paragraphs, I could also look at the images, objects, and documents and resources. The platform also provide a lot of informations connected to the resources, which I think it's very helpful because it allows the users to understand what they're actually looking at. And this type of presentation made the learning experience more visual and more interactive than a traditional textbook. I would say my experience with this particular website for the Smithsonian Learning Lab, I think it was somewhat different from using any other website, like especially those traditional educational website. I like that I could explore based on my own interest and being able to learn at my own pace. I also learned that the resources were connected to real museum collections. But however, one challenge that I have faced as a user is that it can be the resources can be very limited, like for a certain type of topic that I really wanted to explore in the beginning before jumping into rocket science and space exploration. I was not able to find anything related to that. So I think if they were able to improve in, I would say, the up-to-date materials, that would be so much better. But overall, I think I like it. I like the website. And I also think that the platform contains a very large amount of information for some topics, and I think it could, initially feel quite overwhelming for some students. And I think that students would benefit from having a specific topic or kind of like guiding question before exploring and stuff like that. Okay, so well, how can a teacher use it? Well, in my personal opinion, I think that a teacher can use the Smithsonian Learning Lab in how any way that they want it, whether it's going to be in a science, in a history, or technology class. For an example, a students they can learn and explore a collection about space explorations and choose one object that interests them, and so they could do a research on what the object was used for, what problem it solved, and why was it important. Students could then present their findings to the class, and that would allow the students to practice research and critical thinking and using their communication skills and also digital literacy. I think that's great. All right, so this is my question for the group. My question is that if you could create a Smithsonian Learning Lab collection about any topic, what would you choose and why? And I think this question connects to the main purpose of the platform because it allows the users to explore their interest and create a variety of collections and around the topics that they find meaningful. And so, thank you so much for watching this presentation, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.